The Guru is live.
Good morning. It's Friday, and wow, we've got a wonderful topic. One of my favorite, because I've done this before, is why can't I build on this land? We get asked by clients all the time, I'm going to plan to build my own house. And that is a wonderful thing. There are so many things to answer. There's so many aspects to it. It could be a whole series of videos, probably going on for several weeks. We're going to summarize some hot top parts of it today and talk about the question that you get from the client is, well, why can't I build on that land? What's wrong? They are acting as if that we, as the agent, are standing between them and their dream. And it's not that. There's a way to position this. There's a way for you to win with your client, because we are here to help you build your business bigger than ever before. And we're going to start this conversation right after this announcement.
So, Rod, how can a cup of coffee improve my career in real estate?
Well, one cup of coffee is how we start our mornings, and it's not a stranger in real estate. We have coffee with our clients all the time. Even bigger than that, we can sit down with one cup of coffee, talk about your goals, make your business bigger, and push you to heights that you can't even believe.
That's right. And I'll tell you, working for Rod and I, you can be pushed because he's a workhorse.
I love real estate, and I want to share my passion with building your career in real estate as soon as we can pour the next cup of coffee.
So how about a cup of coffee with us?
I look forward to having a cup of coffee with you and having a discussion of a career change as soon as possible.
Thank you.
The Guru is live.
Okay, so your client walks into you and they say those magic words, I want to build a home of my own and I have a piece of land already picked out, and you're thinking, oh boy, where's the land? You're already getting worried about it, but you don't want to show the signs, So you say, well, where's that land at? And they say, well, it's down here. It's around the corner. It's got a 0 address, And that's going to be fun for you. And you're thinking, okay, yeah, it's got a 0 address because it's raw land. It's never had a home on it. There is no address to the land. Property that has a 0 address has never been addressed. It has 0 because it's a piece of raw land. Okay, so you have to go, your first step is the laws and regulations piece, which, you have to start with the laws and regulations, also the zoning, including with the laws and the county overlays of zoning, and as well as any municipality overlays. I personally live in an area. We start off with the state. I'm in the Columbia River Gorge. We start off with the state regs. And then we have the county regs and zonings, all the regs, the zonings, the everything. And then we have the Columbia River Gorge Commission overlays on top of all of that. And you have to abide by the most restrictive of them. You can't say, oh, well, this one allows me to do this. This one doesn't. I'll do this. No, you have to go by the most restrictive. This can be a difficult conversation with your client because it's going to take some research. They come to you and they want you to say, yes, let's put a house over there and you're going to save a ton of money. Maybe they'll save money, what my experience is, and I'd love to hear from you in the comments. My experience is they don't save money, but it's a wonderful experience. They might get exactly what they want. It's a terrific thing. But that doesn't mean that there isn't a bunch of work out in front of them. I have found that it's typically a 2 to 3 year process of raw land to someone actually driving up, parking in their own carport, and living in the home. 2 to 3 year process in our current environment. That can feel crazy to people. They can say, how is that possible? Can't I just, go out there and start building a home? Well, there's permits, there's laws, there's all kinds of things that have to happen, including, the three major things. And we have another show on this that you can go back and take a peek at. The three major things for any piece of raw land of why can't you build there? Well, do you have power? Do you have water? And can you put a septic there? The three major things: the power, the water, the septic. Always keeping that in our mind, of course. And if you haven't done this before, sit side saddle with somebody. Sit side seat with someone that's done it before. Share a commission with them. Learn a little bit so you can build your career with knowledge, skills, and abilities. We're always looking to build your career with knowledge, skills, and abilities that are replicatable over and over and over again in the industry, so that you have those skills, those piece of knowledge, those abilities to replicate and can do it over and over and over again. The first time, though, every one of these projects can be a little daunting. What about riparian rights? Wow, why does that even come up, right? You start looking around and thinking, why does that even come up? Well, it's water rights. And some areas, you're going to have to pay close attention to riparian rights, depending upon the water source and where you can build and what water you can take from and how you can be associated to the water source itself. Riparian rights often is that right. You have to think about the people upstream from you have a right to the water first, but it's not exactly that way. It gets much more complicated, so we don't want to dig all into riparian rights today. But just being aware that water rights out there are huge, and building next to a water bed, a creek bed, or any kind of body of water, a pond, anything, you've got to make your client aware that you need research. You need to go down to the permit office. You may need to call the insurance company. You need to get people looking at the land because you might be dealing with marshlands. Nobody wants to start a project and then you get into the late fall of the year, and all of a sudden the whole area becomes marshy because of the rain. Or the winter comes and it's marshy. You want to stay away from that, because obviously marshlands are going to be bad for any home. They're going to be bad for any home. While they might be beautiful for the wildlife and all kinds of things that can come through. I'm not running marshlands down. They have their own beauty. But probably not for your house sitting on the marshlands. Let me slow down here a little bit this morning, get a sip of coffee. The Black Rifle Coffee Company coffee. And I'd like to know from the comments, what coffee are you drinking in the morning? What gets you, and if it's not coffee, what gets you up and rolling in the morning? Okay. Hope you're having a great morning. By the way, take a second. Hit the like button. I would love it if you'd hit the like button. I mean, it just kind of makes my day. Also, make a comment. Comment about the show we're doing today, or about future shows that you would like to know, or what kind of tool set, what toolkit do you need to build your business? What are you looking for? Because ultimately, this is what we do. We coach agents to build their business larger than they could have ever imagined their business to be. We have a course. There's a link to it right down here in the banner. I step back like as if I have to get out of the way of my own banner. Right down here, there's a banner, and it's the Kickstarter course. Go take a look at the Kickstarter course. We have a money-back guarantee on all of our programs. Jump in, try some one-on-one coaching. See what one-on-one coaching can do to build your business dynamically. We're not talking huge groups. We're talking a coach digging directly into your business with you. The people who build the largest businesses always have coaches. Become one of them. All right, let's get back to why can't I build on this land? Old growth forests, old growth trees. You go out hiking on the property, and it's a wonderful thing to do. I built a house back in the late 80s up on Mount Rainier, and we didn't have old growth, but it was real close to it. It was the second growth to it. Large trees. I mean, some of the trees, huge trees that, down at the butt, about that large, and tall like crazy. Well, these trees are also protected usually through a zoning and regs ordinance, and you have to file in order to take them down or suffer a penalty. And the penalty can be huge. The penalty, unfortunately, can be absolutely thousands and thousands of dollars if you don't file and do it appropriately up front. This is not one of those things you go take a tree down and ask for forgiveness later. It's not that way anymore. Maybe a long time ago, you just go and do something and hope for forgiveness later. Now you got to go through the process. You don't want to get in trouble, for goodness sakes, and you want to have solid advising for your client. You want to know, you want to make them aware of what's going on. And old growth trees, particularly old growth forests, which are even larger trees often, these older forests have a lot of value. And we just had one of these done. You have a study done to what's called you value the forest. So you're valuing the trees. And that is called a timber cruise. I help her here give me the word this morning. A timber cruise. You can have that done. What we found out was, while there was huge value to the cruise coming in and taking the timber, the evaluation also took into impact the aesthetic value of getting rid of them. And because people move into forested areas not to have it completely dozed out completely. Think about this with me for a second this morning. You don't move into something to have it completely barren. In fact, the study came out that the property would be worth less even after taking into effect that you would sell the trees, but the long-term aesthetic value would be gone, even though you can replant. But in our lifetime, you're never going to grow another tree like what they were taking out. Those trees were over 100 years old. They were some really nice timber, beautiful aesthetic, beautiful setting. You can't just go and pop it back in. So always be aware there is the timber cruise value and there is the aesthetic value. So today is not about aesthetic value and timber cruise values, but I want to make that aware when you're thinking about why can't I build on this? Well, what are you going to have to disrupt? What are the disruptions to that land that's going to happen? So let's talk about endangered species. This is part of the disruption. And I'm not talking about some little tiny moth or some worm or something. We're talking actual animals here. And I know the law will protect all kinds of things, including the worms and all of that. That's all fine. But, there's also the beavers, a beautiful animal, the beaver. My wife and I, we love things like the beaver and the boomer and all these little forest animals to the northwest. Beautiful animals. And many of them, including the beaver, are endangered. And now they are protected. And you can't just start building somewhere that's going to disrupt their life. That species we are trying to protect them to survive. So, of course, the regs step in once again, helping protect these animals, and you want to be aware of that with your client. So there's lots of regs to pull on this. Lots of information that you need to be aware of, including contaminated areas. Let me take another sip of coffee this morning. Nobody wants to build a house in a contaminated area. No, nobody. I mean, and often when you say contaminated, people think of Hanford. You know, the old nuclear power over in eastern Washington on the Columbia River, and it contaminated lots of areas, and they're storing the waste still around those areas, and they've got it contained now, but there's lots of contamination due to that. But it's not just that. There's other contaminations that can happen in areas, and you need to find out by going and doing your research. Have some of these areas been contaminated by other things? For example, forestry just by itself, which I am pro good, solid forestry plans, but also poor forestry can cause contaminations of rivers, lakes, all because the silt and the mud and the problems that come in and can clog these areas up for years on end. And you want to know if your area is subject to any of these types of contaminations. Very, very difficult to look into, but something you certainly want to know about. Okay, what about unstable ground? Just recently, we were selling a piece of property with unstable. Well, it was thought that it had unstable ground. It ended up not having unstable ground. So what can cause unstable ground? Well, lots of things can cause unstable ground. So if you are buying, your client is looking at a piece of property on a river's edge, and it kind of overlooks, and maybe it goes down an edge by 20 feet or something. Well, is the river undercutting? Are they on the side of the river possibly that's being undercut by the flow of the current? Well, that can certainly cause, that undercutting can cause an unstable environment long term, where you end up losing a few inches of land every year. And let me tell you something, year after year after year, pretty soon you have erosion and you have lost significant land, and now more and more of your land is unstable. That's another thing. When people start talking about wanting to build, they're often thinking about getting out, further on out. That urban sprawl feel of wanting some space. And they want to get near water, creeks, ponds. And that's wonderful. I personally love water and love being near water. But it's also one of those things you have to think strongly about. Is it unstable? Now, if your property has been backfilled, so maybe it was part of a waste dump at one time and it was backfilled, which is okay. But those properties have to be looked at, they have to be surveyed, and they have to be found out as to whether they are actually stable. Or are they going to have a landslide with them? Landslides are for real. They are happening currently every year in the Northwest. In fact, in the United States or across the world, every year we hear of landslides. It was only a few years ago up by Everett, Washington, Darrington, where my parents were living when I was born, even though I was born in Everett, Washington, at the hospital. So telling too much here. So that area up there a few years ago had a large landslide, and several people unfortunately passed away. So is the area subject to landslides? And these kind of studies are harder, deeper to look at. But if you're looking to be near bodies of water particularly, but not always, if you're on cliffs, steep areas, then you need to take a look at landslides. And is that going to be a problem for your client? Lots to look at when it comes to should they build. Geo Studies to find out whether the land has been compacted enough after a backfill, or if the land has recently moved due to an earthquake. Has the land fully resettled itself and compacted itself down? And a geo study, which can cost, unfortunately, a few $1,000s, they will dig holes and they will take samplings and they will find out whether the soil has down deep has compacted itself enough in over time. Important things to be looking at for certain, no question about it. Okay, there are so many questions when it comes to pulling together a project to build on. Let me go back and visit the 3 big ones, because the question comes into you, and it's an exciting, your client is always crazy excited because they're thinking, we're going to build our own home. And there's a piece of, why can't I build in that home? Well, let's talk about power, water, septic. First, power. Is there actually power on the property, or is it up the road a ways? Do you need to drag power in? By the way, the county doesn't do this for free. The county does not do it for free. It's not a free service that they just say, oh, you want power a mile up the road? Let me just go drag the lines up there, put in some meters, put in all the stuff. No, all of that is charged. Every foot along the way, the county's charged for this. And it can be thousands of dollars to drag power in. If your property has no power on it, I always say, just start thinking around the $20,000 mark to get a power stem on the property itself. Now, you can lower that price by doing a bunch of the work yourself. But if you've never done it before, you're probably going to have someone walk you through it. And maybe you have a buddy that can. That's wonderful. But it can take a lot of work. You're going to need large holes trenched. You're going to need permits. You're going to need to find out what to put the power in. Like back when I did it in the 80s, I needed to put it in what's called a Schedule 40 pipe. It's a very specific type of PVC piping to put the power in. They don't allow this direct bury anymore. You have to actually put it into a PVC pipe for protection. And it needed to be so deep, and we had to have a 48-inch deep at the time. Okay, so power, that's your first, which doesn't give you have power there, and you have a stem, but it doesn't give you anything other than a stem. You still have to bring in the meter and the power box and the breaker box. So all of that, it's on you, on your client. Then find out about water. Is there water on the property? So why can't you build? Well, you've got to have water. They're not going to give you a permit to build without a water source. And there can be many different water sources that are possible, but you have to identify one. For example, maybe you're going to put in a well, or maybe up the street, the county has public water that they'll let you attach to. That's possible. Or maybe it comes down your street and all you need to do is reach out, which would be the cheapest possible water source you could ever attach to, is absolutely the county source. Even though I know lots of people, they want their well water, and that's terrific. But just be aware, it is more expensive to put in well water. They can be very expensive to put in. You have to dig your well, first of all. And then you have to put in a pump house. And then from the pump house, you have to put your lines over to your house. All of this, of course, the dollars are flowing out of your client's pocket like crazy. And lots of loan products do not want to cover the putting in of fundamental systems like power, water, and septic. You definitely need to have a conversation with your lender to shop around to find the right bank that will cover power, water, and septic, because lots of them won't do it. They simply say, oh no, those fundamental systems need to be in place. We will give you a loan to build a house, even though I don't know of any bank anymore. And I would like to hear from you in the comments here. I don't know of any bank that will allow the homeowner to take out a loan like an FHA builder loan, a VA loan that'll allow for building. I don't know any of them that will allow the person to build their own home. I believe all those products have stopped. You have to go and find someone, another contractor, even if you're a licensed contractor, you have to go find a licensed contractor because the bank wants to go after them for the liability and keep you out of it. You're the one taking out the loan. They're the ones supporting the services and things like that. Okay, so anyway, different show for sure. But so the products, the loan products have to be considered when someone comes to you and says, I want to build on that property. You've got to say to yourself, well, what's there? Is power, water, and septic there? Like septic, once again, is there septic in the road? Can you attach to it? If there is septic, no question, the county is going to mandate you to use their system. I understand that. Water is the same thing. But if it's not there, then you're going to have to put your own septic in. And again, septic systems can run from $12,000 to $50,000, depending on what kind of system that the soil needs. And that's going to be a test. That's going to be a percolate test. And if they have to come and put holes into your ground, the test is going to cost. They're going to percolate water. They're going to see what the drainage is. Lots of discovery is going to be happening for that. Well, once you get through all this and you have this nice conversation with your client, often your client's saying, maybe we should just go buy a house. And that's okay. You are showing your knowledge, skills, and abilities while you are absolutely attaching through the motives and relationship to your client. And that's exactly what I want you to be doing, is attaching through a relationship of shared motives, shared knowledge, skills, abilities, and now you have a relationship and you can help put them into the home of their dreams. We are here to help you build your business, your real estate business, your career, bigger than you could have ever imagined. We do it through one-on-one coaching and getting to know you and helping you build your business directly. We have a course called Kickstarter that pulls you through many of these processes, and then we come in with one-on-one coaching and we help this process and build your business. This is Real Estate Daily. I'm Rod Barker, your real estate guru, and I'll be talking to you shortly.